Superficial scribblings on sexism. Superficial scribblings on life. Who the fuck needs criticism? And I can always be right. Hello, something guys and gals, and welcome to yet another episode of Superficial Scribblings on Sexism. Women's Festival at South Bank Centre in London drops controversial event with rapist after protests by Rosine O'Connor of The Independent. Ho hum, how out of their league these protesters are. It's almost like they forgot the idea of a protest in the first place and will now stand pitchforks and picket fences at the ready to wax stale about something they don't like. Even the idea of a rapist talking about what he or she did and the mentality that came with talking about it is just too triggering for these people to deal with. They'd rather have this person rot for an eternity rather than hear them out or even forgive them for it, which will play into later as we go on. Is it more demonstrable for this fake rape culture to be propagated by these spineless weasels, or for them to not even address the harsh reality that rapists are people too, even if they've done bad things? Let's find out. A controversial talk by a rape survivor and the man who raped her has been removed from the schedule of a women's festival following protests. God, do I hate the word survivor applied after rape so fruitlessly. Yes, some people who do get raped might get killed by the rapist so that they can't fib to the cops, but 9 out of 10 cases, you will physically, mortally survive in this instance. I also have to ask, where were these protests taking? Outside of the festival? Do these people have nothing better to do but either hear things they already believe or go slacktivist on someone else's parade? Icelandic writer Tortis Elva was set to speak at the Women of the World Festival at the South Bank Centre in London at the weekend with Australian Tom Stranger, who raped her when she was 16 years old, and his then-girlfriend. Stranger was 18 years old at the time and living in Iceland as an exchange student. Okay, that's all well and detailed, but how are they now? How long did this rape occur? Did Tom Stranger serve his sentence and more than likely had his livelihood from working to even talking to people be completely destroyed because of it? Elva contacted him 8 years after the incident to tell him how she had been affected, after which an email correspondence and face-to-face meeting formed the basis of a new book by Elva, South of Forgiveness. Interesting, this concept of forgiveness from the rape survivor, no less. Odd that someone who experienced something traumatic would, get over it after a number of years. Did you social justice warriors ever think that maybe the rapist in question wasn't raping her on an act of malice, but rather of lust? Did you ever think to humble yourself to your dissenters and perhaps, for a change, give them the olive branch? No, of fucking course you didn't. The event was cancelled following protests against Stranger's scheduled appearance at the festival, following talks with the author, her publisher, rape survivor groups, and other interested parties, The Guardian reports. So was the author, the rape survivor in this instance, fine with people getting triggered that her then rapist was going to talk about what he had done and possibly how he felt bad about it? If anything, this is not going to scare potential rapists away from raping other people. It is just emboldening them to the point that they can have such power over miscreant scamps like these protesters who need any excuse to virtue signal to the masses about how they are against rape. Good news! So does basically everyone else in the Western world. Doesn't stop it from happening. Instead, a standalone event will be held on 14th of March. Stranger will still appear outstage with Elva at the talk, and group discussions will be held afterwards to support anyone whose own memories of sexual assault are triggered, organizers said. No. Stop coddling these fucking people. We get that they went through a traumatic experience, but giving them ointments to shield them from any potential harm is not going to make them stronger people in the end. How about they lead by example? Elva is talking to her own rapist about it, and you don't see her trying to distance herself from him at every fucking turn. South Bank Centre artistic director Jude Kelly said the move was made to enable as many people as possible to contribute outside of festival context. Yeah, what a load of PR bullshit. If it was to enable people to contribute outside of festival context, you'd have the festival with Stranger and the outside festivities to talk more personally to people. This was just you compromising to some triggered cryboys who got their fifis up in a bunch that a rapist would, more than likely, prostrate himself in front of the audience about how much of a piece of shit he is. Kelly also rejected the criticism of the festival, saying the event was created to be an open, balanced platform for discussion and debate on gender equality and the related critical issues that women and men struggle with every day. Well, guess what, Kelly? These festivals and these women's events, remember, it is called Women of the World Festival, aren't meant to support gender equality. Sure, they say that, but look at the context of their actions. They deny facts of men being the majority demographic in prison convictions, having to serve twice as long as women for committing the same crime. They deny men having a lower social security net as women, and not having the same amount of custody to a child as a woman has. They'll demonize men for speaking out against feminists as mansplainers, and then remove their face with the other that says, we support gender equality. Maybe context is what needed on critical issues, not this bullshit gender equality that's a fucking lie. Rape is one of those critical issues, and we need to shift the discourse around it, which too often focuses on rape survivors rather than rape perpetuators. Oh yeah, so fucking often do I hear people talking about the rapists rather than the rapees. I certainly hear that in the college campuses, which not only talks about people being raped, but has to artificially inflate the number of people being raped in colleges. And I hear that in the media about how 1 in 2 women will get raped in their lifetimes. Yeah, I totally hear that all the fucking time, right? While this was a woefully short article, as in some episodes prior, I will look at comments, in this case, comment threads, on what people think about this regressive backwards-ass nonsense. We have our first comment thread started by Parmoking stating, and they wonder why no women support feminism anymore. Skepticat goes with the rebuttal, in your dreams, of course women support feminism. This has nothing to do with feminism. That might have been sarcastic. And Newing_Perawat clarifies, 7% of British women support feminism, only a little more than a monster raving loony party, or are feminist monsters and raving loonies. And in my country, the United States, only 20% of people support feminism. And I'm almost sure that number is inflated because they are giving them the layman's definition of feminism, and not what feminism has ultimately become. Some people, in fact, will just say they are feminists so that other raving feminists don't eat them alive for breakfast if they decide to say the most triggering of words, no. Our second comment chain starts with Greasel is not the word, saying, so if feminist is banned from free speech by other feminists because they disagree and are unable to use language to express this, an inevitable result of feminist safe spaces and the echo chamber and the perpetual outrage and victim-led approach that now dominates feminism. Once again, Skepticat responds, now, having the other read, the protests were against the appearance of a rapist. She'd still be welcome. While Nuong_Perawat again disagrees with Skepticat's argument, I want to clarify how Nuong is right about his interpretation as well as Greasel, even if you didn't realize that the protest was not in the appearance of another feminist. Kate Smurfwaite, a feminist who has argued against Smile on several topics, has been no platform by other feminists because they find her too triggering to marginalized groups. We have Germaine Greer, an ancient feminist, being no platform because her ideas are too second wave for those third wave feminazis. These feminists will funnel out any feminists they find in their crazy collection of ideas too toxic, thereby thinning their numbers ever more until just 2 of them are left, and even then, they will still separate themselves from their no true feminist clause. Our final comment chain starts with Skig14 going, it seems foolish to remove this. I can't say for sure since there's no real info on the content here, but that sounds like an incredibly interesting talk, and, again I'm guessing here, I don't suppose anyone would have been forced to watch it as a part of their visit to the festival. Most have multiple simultaneous events. Glad to hear it will go ahead in some form though, it sounds like a unique opportunity. I never did address this, but yes feminists, if you were so bothered by the appearance of a rapist, guess what? You actually aren't obliged to sit through it. Go ahead and leave. But of course, this is about power and not about personal feelings offended. Pippin Drill adds, it is a TED Talk, so people are welcome to see it. I saw it and found it awkward and uncomfortable, and I can see why many survivors took umbrage with it. That being said, I think the main protest was that the man is making money off the fact that he raped someone. So what? So is the woman who got raped by said man. Also, it being a festival makes me very doubtful that it became a TED Talk as well as these two making money in the first place, as they were just participating in talking for more or less. So anything, they might have had to put their own money to get a spot in this. Again, our intrepid Greasel is not the word exclaims, typical feminists. So in your mind, not other feminists get to experience things for themselves and make up their own mind because you felt a bit uncomfortable. Not every feminist was raped, and not everyone can't cope with their emotions and feel the need to oppress others with their own emotional issues. I'm sorry for what happened to you, but one day you might realize that this is why feminism is reaching a dead end. Because it has become dominated by such intolerance and unwillingness to grow or evolve, and instead obsessed with becoming insular and isolated itself from any kind of new ideas, disagreement, or debate. Right on the nail there. It's like as if feminists think that once a person rapes, they are no longer a person in just this perpetual air of darkness that cannot be seen and should not be seen, but is still there. Finally, Gushy Gosh rides on the fence with, have you seen the talk? No one was raped there. They both concocted the perfect lie to make money by coaxing women by validating their idea of how reality works. No one rapes by accident the same way no one murders by accident. I don't personally think these two are doing this out of some kind of con artistry or for the sake of money, or they would have rode that gravy train from the start of the rape. Also, how is it a con if one of the two members of the party is facing much greater detriment to their own character than the other in the process? It doesn't add up. Also, regardless if they are making money off of it or not, doesn't necessarily invalidate what they are saying to begin with, assuming that it isn't some kind of sponsorship by a feminist-led article via Everyday Feminism. Well, that was all I have for today on this episode. So long, and see you next time.